Hi, I'm Gregg LeFevre, and this is The Compulsive Storyteller, a series of short, personal, true stories where we explore the idea that truth can be stranger than fiction. This week's episode is entitled Mother's Day Con Mom. My mother could never pass up a contest, a sweepstakes, or a competition of any sort. When I was 4, we were in downtown Albany together, window shopping. In one window, we discovered a 3-foot-tall jar of jelly beans. Whoever guessed the number of beans in the jar correctly would win a 64-piece set of Pyrex dishes. Mom helped me guess, and we went inside together to fill out the entry sheet. Days later, we received a call that my guess had won. We were inundated with Pyrex baking dishes and lids of all shapes and sizes. I'll always remember the dozen small custard cups, which my mother put to good use cooking custard and tapioca for the family throughout the years that I still lived at home. It wasn't until I was in my 50s that I accidentally smashed the last remaining custard cup, the only remnant of my first contest victory, which was, of course, her victory. There were a host of other contests she entered over the years, and she didn't always play fair. One happened before I was born, but she shared the story with me when I was young. She was flying across upstate New York in her small plane. If you listen to episode 10 of The Compulsive Storyteller, entitled Me Too Mom, you'll hear the story of her becoming one of the first female Air Force pilots during World War II. After the war, she purchased her own small plane. Midway through her flight between Albany and Buffalo, she had on a radio on the plane and was listening to a call-in quiz show and heard all the winning answers. When she arrived back in Buffalo, she was listening again to the radio, this time in her kitchen, when she heard the same call-in quiz show with the same questions she'd heard the day before. Seeing an opportunity, she called in the right answers to the station and won a Cinderella weekend to New York City, which included a stay in a fancy hotel, dining in the best restaurants, and tickets to a big Broadway show. She and my dad had a ball in the Big Apple. But that wasn't enough for Mom. The next week, she was back in the air listening to her radio, and upon returning to Buffalo, she had one of her sisters call in with the right answers. She had twin sisters, Norma and Thelma, and Norma won another Cinderella weekend to New York. In total, she furnished all of her friends and siblings with the right answers, and they won almost a dozen Cinderella weekends. Was she at all troubled by the morality of this enterprise? Not in the least. Her next mark was a contest, sponsored by the Marlboro Cigarette Company. Contestants had to comb through the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, looking for words that contained the letters CIG, standing for cigarette. There she was night after night, sitting at the dining room table with her thick unabridged dictionary, poring over every word, squinting at column after column of small print. Then, just to be sure, she repeated the same exercise and came up with the same results. Sure of winning the contest, she was devastated when she failed to do so. She relentlessly queried the company for more information about the competition, which the company was unwilling to share. After the whole episode was over, she complained that she quote-unquote almost went blind for nothing. She resolved the matter in her own mind by railing against the unfairness of the rigged competition. That's called karma, and it's pronounced Over the years, there was a myriad of other contests. Meanwhile, she grew older, married my dad, had 3 children, and became a successful real estate broker in Delmar, New York, a suburb of Albany. One Thanksgiving, the local newspaper sponsored a contest that she couldn't resist. Inside the paper there was a full page of 30 small square ballots, each bearing the name of a different local business. Readers were supposed to place the appropriate ticket with their name and contact information on the back in the ballot box on the counter of each business. Starting 30 days before Thanksgiving, every day there would be a drawing at one of the businesses. The winner would receive a 16-pound butterball turkey. This contest was a slam dunk for Mom. She purchased 30 different copies of the newspaper, then sat in her usual place at the dining room table, carefully cutting and filling out every ballot, grouping them in 30 different envelopes, each bearing the name of one of the businesses. She then made the rounds of all the different locations and surreptitiously stuffed their ballot boxes. Inside drugstores, gas stations, dry cleaners, farm stands, banks, insurance offices, and even her own real estate company office sat a box containing a preponderance of ballots bearing her name. Did she think ahead as to how the drawings would unfold over the next 30 days? Not for a second. The newspaper made a big deal about the first drawing of a winning ticket, including in the article a photo of the drawing, complete with overseers to prevent tampering. And lo and behold, Betty LeFevre, the successful, well-known local realtor, had won. When she received the call notifying her of her victory, the reality of the situation, namely that she had outsmarted herself, became clear, and her blood ran cold. What could she do? Or more appropriately, how could she undo what she had done? She jumped in her new car and headed for the newspaper's office, where she huddled with the owner. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for that conversation. She shared with me later that she didn't come completely clean at once, saying that she had misunderstood the rules of the competition. But the newspaper's owner, a former investigative reporter, wasn't having any of that. Through a series of smart, prosecutorial-like questions, he forced her to swallow her pride and explain every sordid detail of her ruse. She actually teared up, very unlike my mother, and most probably crocodile tears. While they were meeting, the second turkey drawing took place, and of course, Betty LeFevre won again. The deal she worked out with the editor was that in all future drawings, if her name was chosen, it was just ignored and not read out loud. In return, she would give her 2 prize turkeys, along with a dozen other turkeys she would purchase to a local food distribution organization. And all would be forgiven and forgotten. I was closest to my mother, so she confided the story of the unfolding disaster she had created in real time as it was happening. My dad and sisters only knew about her first 2 wins. During the period before Thanksgiving, they learned the whole story. At the Thanksgiving dinner table, when she was teased a bit about her scam, she took it very badly and retreated to her bedroom, locked the door, and didn't come out until the next day. That was the last time we ever talked about the turkey raffle. Epilogue. My mother was a bundle of contradictions. Throughout all of her scams and hustles, she was, as a successful realtor, very considerate of all her customers. If someone bought a house from her, she would give them a large houseplant and a bottle of good champagne. But more importantly, she befriended them, and for as long as they lived in town, whatever they needed, she would help with. A doctor, a babysitter, a psychotherapist, a tutor, or a divorce attorney. She also provided a caring shoulder to cry on when one of them had a death in the family or a major loss. At one point, my father got suspicious that she might be having an affair because she disappeared late every afternoon at the same time with food she had cooked that day. When he confronted her, she confessed that one day when she was driving around town, she helped an old man whose wheelchair had tipped over in the street. He was poor and lived alone, so she started making home-cooked meals for him, which she delivered to his sad little one-room apartment every day. My mother is long gone now, and I'm not much of a believer in the afterlife. But whenever I think of her, it makes me wish that there really was a heaven. Are you ready to tell your own story on the Compulsive Storyteller? We're launching a new segment of guest storytelling, and we want to hear your stories. Email a voice recording to hello@thecompulsivestoryteller.com. I'll play selected stories on upcoming episodes. Try to be as clear as possible in your recording, and we reserve the right to lightly edit them for length and clarity. Leave your name or contact information in your voicemail or email, and let us know if you'd like the story to be anonymous. I can't wait to hear from you. The Compulsive Storyteller is now co-produced by Gregg LeFevre and Fadia Montserrat, who's also arranged the music and created the special effects. Emily Ramon does design, research, editing, and marketing. Peter Kokoma has made our theme music and for many seasons co-produced the show with me. If you enjoyed this week's episode, let us know. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Compulsive Storyteller, and we'd love to hear from you. This podcast is independently produced, so we really appreciate all your help and support. Share the show with your friends, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and please leave a review. You can also check out our website, thecompulsivestoryteller.com, for more information. Thanks for listening, and if you didn't like this one, the next one will be another story. All characters and events portrayed in this podcast are based on my truth, with some names and facts changed for privacy. The conversations and dialogues are based on my best memory, but are not word-for-word recreations.